Okay, it's day 337, and I wanted to do a quick summary. This has been 1,000 videos, 1,000-piece puzzle. It's been more than that. I think it's 1,200 videos now. And each piece is true and honest journalism. Either I talked to an expert or I went there myself. And each piece is like a little scientific experiment where I do a little hypothesis and then I immediately go test the hypothesis. So it isn't one of those things where I do lots of speculation for days on end. I immediately test the hypothesis and let people criticize the hypothesis just like you would in academic review. So that's been the process here. It's been a very scientific process and so forth. And where I've found leads and where the crowd has said this is a promising lead, I've continued to follow it. I can't predict from one day to the next where this goes. So that's the part that the crowdsource of truth, I'll give you an example. Hudson Group, the 6 professionals and the folks have been running all over the world doing these programs, for different alphabet agencies. They don't necessarily know all the things that are on the plane. They're just told to be at spot A and spot B and all over the world. And there's no better expert than Mr. Hudson. And he's the one who has told me, and I have to rely on experts who've been there firsthand. He's the one who's told me that there's 100 square miles in Pakistan and Afghanistan mainly, and then the processing in Pakistan of opium, and how the market has never been greater, and how last year was a 40% uptick over a banner year the year before. He's the one who's told me about the illegal uranium trade and how they're using these old tankers to move all the stuff, and the cars. He's the one who told me about the cars. And so I've just followed up on all the experts' advice that they've given me, okay? And then followed it all the way down to the street level, the part that I can do firsthand. And last night I got to the last retail, McDonald's franchise for that. I mean, that was Manitoba. I could tell you, after I did the camera, one of my brothers of color came into, after I did the camera in the neighborhood, one of my brothers of color came into the KFC where I was eating. I like that KFC. I think I got a little brother in me somewhere, but anyway, he came in and he was ordering his food. He was talking about how he shouldn't be eating this stuff and watch his abs. Big brother, one of my brothers of color, and he said, but then there's some people spying. He just said it as loud as he could, and he looked right at me, spying in the neighborhood. Well, then 2 or 3 other soldiers came in and came up to me and took my picture. Didn't say anything, just came up to me and took my picture. First soldier took it outside through the window. The second 2 came up inside, used the bathroom, came over, took a picture. So that's how I know I'm in the right spot. I know I'm in Retail 101 for the drug McDonald's. So the part of the rat line that I could do firsthand, I do firsthand. I go there at the time of night when this would be happening. I couldn't go there any later because the trains weren't running any later. But I know I'm in the right spot. But what amazes me is that everyone at some point, they know that there's 100 square miles of opium being grown. They know how it's being shipped, and we've really gone down, to the actual company, AB Auto Imports, AB whatever that import company is in Miami. We've tracked it with Amon Transport, all the different cutouts. We've tracked it down to Manitoba. But still, people say, you know what? This is conspiracy theory. It's all conspiracy theory. You're hurting people. I don't know what else I can do other than just show it with my camera and say this is the fact. Imran Awan does have a contact. He has to have a contact with the Coast Guard and the Navy to get the stuff around. He has to be passing the information. He has to be getting the information from the Coast Guard. I have to follow those leads. I do know. Laurel is a great witness that I just want to get as much information from. So anyway, it was just amazing to see, because here's a guy who's talked to me about the whole process, and I followed up on every lead that I could, and he is the expert with his group of experts, about how it got to Pakistan and how they pick somebody for interdiction every once in a while and the whole thing. And I've done the rat line. I mean, I've gone there at that as late as I can before they stop running the trains to confirm my hypothesis. So anyway, that's the process. Iran-Contra is big. I think Brandy Blonde figured out yesterday it's all the same families. It's all the same families from Iran-Contra. When I go into the legal system down on not on 555 4th Street, but on 333 Constitution Avenue, it's all the Awans. It's all the previous cases. It's Amjad Awan, first thing that comes up. Then Farouk Awan, first time that they ever had any problems. And now, and now Imran Awan. It's the same families, same rat lines, same methods of shipment. The only thing that's gotten better is the spy ring. The spy ring in Congress is the only thing that's gotten better, and that's the thing I'm focusing on. So I just wanted to show you this process, this scientific process, and this isn't a process of trying to ruin anybody, but the people in Congress are compromised. How is it being done? It's being done with these low-light Toshiba cameras. Who's doing it? I think it's going to be local law enforcement, Alexandria law enforcement. But I just want to show you the process and why this journalism is better. This is the article that came out last night. Well, a little bit more than last night now, but this is a 24-hour cycle in journalism. This is Luke's fine reporting about the 3 different places where Imran had a beating. And I honed in on the one that was closest to Manitoba, because that's the one that where they said the second wife was, the Sadiq, okay? And this is one also that was bloodied. And all along the way with this kind of Smith-Munt journalism that the Washington Post does, they always add in things to kind of shard your attention. But I honed in on this because of Manitoba. The one with the bloodied one was Manitoba. So I picked it up where Luke left off, basically in a 24-hour cycle. So I mapped it. I did some other things in the morning with the timeline. And then, let's see, I'm looking through the camera here. I did some work on the GSA. And I didn't. And in the afternoon is when I kind of go to the road. And here's what I kind of said in the afternoon: Lachine. This was to make fun of the French explorers, by the way, who said that China, this is the way to China, and they hit Montreal on the way, a landmass, sort of like Columbus, hits the West Indies or East Indies, and they were making fun of them because they said, "Oh, this isn't China." So the Lachine part of Montreal is basically named after, to make fun of the French explorers who thought they were getting to China. And so Lachine is that road. So here I say basically, we've got the UAE pharmaceuticals, we've got the soccer balls coming in from Pakistan, we've got a guy who's a millionaire in Redondo Beach. There may be ties to Roger Clinton in this, which disappoints me. And that's where I'm going. So now the whole crowd is giving me information and so forth about, all this stuff, and and Brandy Blonde, she's making all these connections to this UAE firm that's investing for some reason on this Lachine Street here down in the hood. It's not the hood, but let me tell you, I've been there 4 times late at night, and it's dark for a good reason. And it is retail 101 for drug McDonald's. So anyway, I focused in on the map and just kind of zoomed in from where Luke's story left off, and just talking about, hey, this is where the beatings were, and let's go actually look at the neighborhood. It looks much different on the map. I thought there were towers. I mean, I had misconceptions. Are these towers Morningside Towers? This is where the second wife is living, etc. Is it a nice place around the corner from a ratty place with Manitoba? Here I electronically submitted a lawsuit, Cindy did, so that we're going to be pursuing that. I always think of Dred Scott. Everyone says, oh no, you're going up against a massive negative thing, but I always think, hey, Dred Scott. So anyway, Brady Blonde had done the cluster analysis of all the people, and said, hey, this is the same case as the Misra case in 2001. And it's all Manitoba. Everybody starts here. Everybody from the tribe comes over from Pakistan and they start in Manitoba. Yeah. I mean, the understanding of exactly what is happening. This is no interpretation, nothing. Boom. This is the facts. Okay. And then I finally go there. And then there's Sean Bober version, which is cover up. And he's obviously working with Mirando, and Mirando's married to a Wasserman. I mean, this is all just it's a cover up. This is all just an elaborate cover-up of this operation. And if you go into it, I go to the neighborhood, I talk to all the people. If you go into the actual video. And, this was the summation after I got out of there.
Okay, day 336.
So, this form of journalism is continually testing. It's continual scientific method. And if you don't have a hypothesis, the story never moves. Everybody says, well, just stick to the facts. If you stick to the facts, we'd all be, we wouldn't have a scientific method. The Renaissance, the Enlightenment never would have happened. So if you have to continually be working these small experiments to move the story forward. That's the way it is. It's a scientific method. Now, this is what disappointed me about crowdsourced truth, is use your time rather than saying George is hurting some person, which I'm not. I like Laurel. I want her to help. She ID'd Raul Abbas, but there's so many more questions we could get to who is Raul Abbas and get to this relationship. Spend your time actually interviewing Charles Freitag. Let him answer questions, and do an in-depth interview with LaQuea. Do an in-depth interview with the survivor of the Kenneth Mormon who has taken the registered mail there, Doris Mormon. Do all these interviews. This is a perfect, I am teeing it up. More people are going to want to watch those interviews from the first-hand people that are going to want to watch the scientific method play out here from me. You're going to have the crowdsourced truth is going to have a much, much larger audience than me, because people are going to want to know the answers to the hypotheses. So that's what I'm trying to say here. Okay, this is too long already, and I do want to say one last thing. My brother of color, I've got the same Uber driver 3 nights in a row because it's late when I finally get back to Largo, up in Capitol Heights, and he's this guy who was in Afghanistan, in Iraq. He grew up on Fort Meade, actually on the grounds of Fort Meade, and we're talking, and his dad also was in Vietnam, and his dad died at 48 of Agent Orange. He's fighting the VA. My dad was trying to get disability from the VA, but yet we're putting in all these weapons systems at the Pentagon, all this pay to play, all this UAE pharma, and all this stuff all it is to protect this $1 trillion industry. Hudson explained to me this drugs for weapons thing is a $1 trillion industry. $1 trillion. It's amazing. $7 trillion missing over time. So where do you think that's going? And I said, yeah, most people, they don't know. Vietnam War, drugs, DMZ, getting all these soldiers hooked on drugs, And he goes, yeah, my dad was one of them. And, these folks fighting. What's one great thing about, I cannot remember the last white person I talked to. I talked to everybody in the morning. Everybody's black. And, I met a fighter pilot yesterday morning. We talked a long time about flying the F-15s, 16s, 18s, and so forth. And he was just like everybody else, having trouble with his car battery, And, I met another homeless guy. His dad was a Tuskegee Airman, There's all these stories that, all I do is say exactly what I experience. And I'm just trying to do a scientific experiment, small steps. I'm not trying to be Peter Dale Scott and do this big sweeping thing. When you finally do assemble it all 1,200 pieces, and you go to Cy Hirsch, he goes, oh, this story's too big. And I say, Cy, this is your story. And he says, no, this story's too big. So anyway, I'm going to keep plugging away. I know what's going to happen. I know that people don't take your picture because I'm Brad Pitt. In the KFC, 3 different people don't take my picture because I'm Brad Pitt. I know when the soldiers come take my picture what that means. So I just wanted to say this before anything happens, that this is all it is scientific method applied to journalism. That's all it is. Using the crowd as a way of peer review. All right, that's it for this morning.